Assalamualaikum. My name is Siti Aishah Binti Mohammad. My ID number is 2030873686. Malaysia's first Prime Minister Tun Abdul Razak set the date for the establishment of the National Economic Partnership (NEP) in 1969. The strategy was established in reaction to the racial riots and frustration created by significant economic disparities, particularly between ethnic groups, as well as unequal economic progress across the sector. This follows the election outcome, in which election candidates and politicians, particularly from the opposition, addressed sensitive topics relating to the national language, Malay, the unique position of Malays, and non-Malays citizenship rights. The implementation of NEP has sparked a variety of problems. The NEP aims are believed to have yet to be completely realized. Despite a proposal to merge all races in Malaysia, the issues associated with NEP extended to all aspects of economic planning, from scholarship awards to employment, from agricultural to industrial companies, from contracts and licensing to foreign investment, and so on. Despite the vast variety of criticisms leveled at this strategy, there are two areas that are receive a lot of attention, like the economic and political elements. Let me explain to you the first element, that is economics. Malaysia's Plan NEP was established in 1917, and it stated that foreign businesses had to give 70% ownership for Malaysians, with a minimum of 30% going to Malay interests. The NEP's implementations over its first 10 years created inter-ethnic conflicts and disputes. Non-Malay populations complained that the policy preferred Malays so much. Malaysia business were required to set aside at least 30% of their corporate stock for Malay interests in 1975. Meanwhile, in political elements that is explained to us, money politic is the illegal collection of cash from company owners and wealthy individuals with a vested interest. Vote buying election involve the use of money, gift and contracts to purchase supporters or voters. Because candidates from the ruling party have access to government assets, it is not an issue for them to give their aid to their followers. Due to bad management and money politics, Malaysia Public Enterprise may be a public enterprise. Multi-purpose holdings has had strong political backing from the Malaysian government, and it has used to buy several publicly traded firms. Affirmative policies such as ICA 1975 has caused a discord among Chinese communities and so-called greedy Bumiputras. A new generation of business people acquired quick riches in rent-seeking relationship with Malay bureaucrats, senior military officers, and royal family members.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nurshafiqa Ariani Binti Daud. My student ID is 2020469668. For my point, I'm gonna present about what is objective and goals from new economic policy. To the general knowledge, each policy has its own goals and objective. The first objective of the new economic policy is to reduce the poverty rate. The main factor related to poverty in Malaysia is the fall in the price of export goods due to the global economic recession. There is a way to eradicate poverty in the country, which is to increase employment opportunities for all people regardless of race and ethnicity. This is because there are various races in Malaysia, which is Malay, Chinese, India, and so on. In the word new economic policy has been mentioned about the economy. The economy means that if the Malaysian economy continues to grow, it will create many job opportunities. In addition, there is poverty in the area of village and they work as smallholders and fishermen. After the introduction of the new economic policy, the poverty rate of rubber smallholder decreased from 64.7% in 1970 to 40% in 1987. In fact, for the urban poor consisted of people engaged in the mining and construction sectors. Therefore, when job opportunities or everything is implemented based on the NEP, which is new economic policy, every citizen in Malaysia will not live in poverty. The second objective is to restructure society to reduce and eliminate racial identification according to economic function. This is because during the invasion of Britain in Malaya, it is difficult for economic justice and complicate unity. In the government's efforts and objective to restructure society, a key strategy has been formulated, namely to form a commercial and industrial society among Bumiputra in all fields and levels of economic activity so that Bumiputra can coexist with non-Bumiputras in modern economic activities. In addition, the income of Bumiputra in 1970 amounted to $172 per month, rising to $614 in 1987. As a result, certain business has been done by the developer, where the developer opened the new town and make relocation with various public facilities are available to all races, including Malays, Chinese, Indians, so that they can live together in harmony and unite as a community. The economic policy has succeeded in bringing significant changes to Malaysia, as well as successfully implementing strategies in the face of the reality of ethnic difference. Okay, let's move to the next point, which is who is actors in creation of policy in new economic policy. In Malaysia, basically in 1971, the new economic policy was introduced by the second Prime Minister of Malaysia, namely Tengku Abdul Razak bin Hussein. A policymaker is someone who create plans and strategies that are done by the government or business. Policy makers include the corporate board, the mayor, and the prime minister. A policy is a decision or process arising from the systematic interaction between various public and private entities involved in various ways in the creation, recognition of which is politically identified as a public problem. Therefore, there are reasons why the new economic policy took place is because after the political crisis in 1969, it has caused socio-economic imbalance in Malaysia. To overcome this problem, there is one thing that will be implemented, that is the new policy is introduced and formulated with several objectives such as developing rural areas, eradicating poverty and bridging the income gap between rural and urban areas. Therefore, the second Prime Minister Tengku Abdul Razak bin Hussein has implemented a lot of development in urban area. In addition, the Implementation Coordination Unit (ICU) is a central agency under the Prime Minister Department. The unit has been responsible for evaluating the alignment and implementation of strategies such as the new economic policy, privatization policy, and so on. Next, the central organization is divided in 7 branches, which is Contractor Service Center, Poverty Eradication Division, Community Restructuring Division, Management Information Division, Petroleum Information Division, Infrastructure and Public Facilities Division, and the 7th is the Administration and Finance Division. There is a second example, which is the role of policymakers in the economic planning unit, EPU. This unit is a central agency which is also located under the Prime Minister Department. Therefore, their role and responsibility is to plan the economic development of the country. The unit is responsible for the following tasks, such as implementing the 5-year proposal for national growth, namely reviewing annual planning estimate for Treasurer and Public Service Department, analyzing the position of the national and foreign economy as the basis of economic planning and development, managing Malaysia financial and technical support from foreign and international government, and the last task is to advise the government on the country economic problems. That's all from me. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Siti Salwa Binti Othman and my student ID is 2020613178, and I'll present to you about the strategy of new economic policy and also the evaluation on the effectiveness of new economic policy using the SWOT analysis.
There are two strategies in the implementation of the new economic policy. The first strategy is to reduce and eradicate poverty, and the second strategy is to restructuring the society. In the strategy of reducing and eradicating poverty to meet the new economic policy objective, new economic policy create employment opportunities for all unemployed people. Employment development is to provide the opportunities for all unemployed or poor people to participate effectively in the growth process and be able to experience the result of the development to enhance their income to cover the cost of living. Besides that, new economic policy also increasing the productivity and income, especially in agriculture sector. In this matter, the government providing better inputs and facilities such as improving inputs for replanting crops and purchasing equipment to enhance agriculture modern development. Other than that, new economic policy provide relocation opportunities for people working in low productivity sector by absorbing more of the poor household that working in low productivity sector into the modern sector such as agriculture sector, mining and trade sector to reduce the income gap between the race, urban and rural area and at the same time to further strengthen the racial unity in the country. Lastly, the new economic policy are also improving the standard and quality of life of the people by improving the socio-economic position of the poor. The government provide more social service and facilities, especially in the aspect of education, health infrastructure facilities, training and other aspects that are related. This development program is so important to ensure Malaysia are not left behind and can compete with other developed countries. Another strategy was undertaken by the government to resolve economic imbalance is by implementing restructuring of society. In this strategy, new economic policy raising the productivity and living standard of the poor through the process of modernizing rural area. This is because most of the rural area inhabited by ethnic Malay, which is only to carry out economic activities in the agriculture sector until the poverty rate for Malay is higher than people of Chinese and Indian that living in urban area and estates. Second is reducing imbalance in the existing employment structure in a progressive manner and through economic growth. The government encourage multiracial to participate in key sectors such as mining and trade sectors so that the income of each race is equal and there will be no more misunderstanding between races such as Malay, Chinese and India. Lastly, it also formed a commercial and industrial community among the Malay or Bumiputra itself so they can have at least 30% of economic outcome from all types of economic. In addition, New Economic Policy also established several agencies such as MARA, Bank Pembangunan, Bank Bumiputra and also Amanah Saham Nasional as a support agencies to Bumiputra.
we move to evaluation on the effectiveness of the policy using the SWOT analysis. First of all, we can see the strength in the new economic policy is started when the federal government established an Industry Coordination Act (ICA) to promote the new economic policy goal. According to the Act, Malaysia Corporation shall devote at least 30% of their corporate equity to Malay interests. As a result, all non-Bumi Putra business must recruit and educate Malaysian people represent the composition of different countries' population at all stages of approval to management. Other than that, the strength also can be seen where the government fully support the implementation of the program that can improve the social economy of the poor. Next is the weaknesses of the new economic policy. There are some weaknesses in the implementation of the Industry Coordination Act (ICA) by the federal government. This is because this act caused a decline in foreign investment in the country when a large number of foreign investors who have the potential to invest in Malaysia are refused to make an investment because they are worried and kind of disagree about the nationalisation that agreed by the new economic policy. Other weaknesses is the misunderstanding that exists between the foreign investor and Bumi Putra. In this matter, the foreign investor are reluctant to collaborate with the Malay because a lot of rumor that saying Malay like to suspend payment or expected to be financed easily. Next is the opportunity. New economic policy lead to emergence of new industry by facilitating cross-private sector with the public sector. Other than that, the expansion of new economic policy also strengthening and improving the quality of service when many rural areas have been provided with convenience facilities such as access to drinking water, electricity, expanded school facilities and health facilities. Malaysia also has an opportunity in improving and strengthening revenue-based cooperation between companies when the enactment of the International Rubber Agreement established. Lastly is the trade. New economic policy will be facing a failure if the weaknesses are not addressed in the long term. In this matter, it can give a big impact, give a negative impact to the new economic policy goal. That's all.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Siti Aishah Binti Sarapa. My student ID is 2020868968. I will continue the presentation on the recommendation based on the evaluation. As you can see, based on the previous slide, it is the same thing. Based on the above evaluation, there are some recommendations that need to be done to overcome the above of the weaknesses. For the first one is the government needs to improve public sector agency to mobilize growth in a policy where it is so because of to attract investors to invest in Malaysia as well as to obtain a reasonable profit. Profit in a country is an important thing in developing Malaysia. An example that can be taken to support investors to invest in our country is by ensuring that the restructured MIDA is able to develop the ability to provide insider investors with support in the form of startup to point operation in new manufacturing and service sector. So from there we can effectively address the problem of investment in the country by taking such a step. The second recommendation is to eradicate by increasing employment opportunities for all citizens regardless of race in new economic policy. Through the weaknesses and threats also explain the misunderstanding of the Malay community, which is China said that Malay community are lazy. Therefore, any jobs for them is a very useful thing to avoid the Malay community oppressed and considered lazy. Therefore, we find through socio-economic efforts to create employment opportunities for all in order to reduce the unemployment rate experienced by the Malay community. Through this action and efforts, the people of Malaysia will definitely use the opportunities that are in front of their eyes as best as possible. In addition to creating a developed country in Bumiputra business and trade. The third recommendation is needed to restructuring of society in new economic policy. Generally, in 1990, the government had intended the ownership of Malaysia's share economic will reflect the mix of regional interests in the country, with Bumiputra accounting for 30%, non-Bumiputra for 40%, and international investor accounting for 30%. As a result, to achieve the aim of reforming the new economic policy, the process of modernizing rural regions is improving the productivity and living condition of the poor. It is important to ensure that comfort of the Malay community in addition to fulfilling its responsibility accordingly. In conclusion, as the outline, there are many benefits and ways to implementing new economic policy across the country, but seeing the glass as half full, we will rejoice in what we have. The rise of the Malay middle class and the development of new Malay entrepreneurs has significantly reduced ethnic tensions. Not only that, the growth also led to increased purchasing power throughout society, which helped the economy survive during the recession. The most significant achievement of this strategy is the harmony and stability it brought about without oppressing or suppressing race other than the son of the land. However, the new economic policy has been used to outperform Bumiputra in a number of ways. Eradicating poverty and creating opportunity is a strategy to boost economic growth among the Malay community and make sure it is not suppress other people. It is clear that implementation of the new economic policy has produced unintended consequences. Opportunities have populated the slopes of the new economic policy. It is widespread, increasing the concentration of ownership in the hands of a small elite group as well as political links. As a result, they should bear the brunt of the responsibility, not the policy under discussion. That's all from me. Assalamualaikum.